Hey there, friends and enemies, Jopa here again, and today we got a bunch of new information about the boss rush mode coming to Remnant 2 on September 24th alongside the Dark Horizon DLC, as well as the Prism system, which will be replacing Fragments. So I'm going to dive deep into all of that, the latter of which will be just a bit of a teaser, as we are getting a full blog post in the future about the Prism system and how it's changing things up. But for now, let's talk about the boss rush information first. So, Ben Curitin on Twitter, who is the lead developer on Remnant 2, has said that it's a hybrid of survival, horde, and boss rush. So it's not just simply a boss rush. You will have ads to face as well, which he explained previously. You can use your existing character. You can also start a new character and go right into boss rush. First, you will enter a dungeon, which is a quick horde experience. There's much smaller zones than you are used to. In fact, sometimes you might zone in and actually see the exit door across the way. So essentially, small little arenas for you to fight enemies, which I think is good when you're going to be testing out the builds. Not a lot of time exploring. That's what the base game and the DLC will be for. Once inside, you'll defeat a certain number of enemies to spawn the aberration. Defeating them will unlock the path forward. Unlike Remnant 1, the door stays locked until you have dispatched the initial threat. On lower difficulties, you'll only need to kill a handful of mobs to make the aberration appear. In each zone, you'll find a power pylon. This will grant you a choice between three options. This will be pure stats or hacks, which are more complex buffs. Things like chance to spawn a black hole, which sounds hilarious. Spinning orbs spawn health orbs on kills, which I think will be very, very massive if you decide on that one. You can enhance the power of the hacks and stat buffs by selecting them again. I think that's fantastic. Especially if you're looking for a challenge, you don't have to use these. Whereas if you want to get the completion and get as many of the rewards as possible in as little of time as possible, these could be very, very advantageous. The power pylon can be found at any time, but the location is random, so you might have to hunt for it a little bit. Defeating the aberration will make it appear on your minimap. Oh, I like that as well. So you'll know where it is, but you have to defeat the aberration first. Sometimes you'll unlock the door while you are near the end of the zone and have to decide to walk back and get it or just move on. Keep in mind that after defeating the aberration, you have a short delay and then more enemies will start spawning. That's fantastic because then it's kind of a risk reward factor there, especially when you don't know what the buffs will be with the power pylon. The power pylon buff slots are limited to 5, and each buff can be stacked to 5, so if you don't like any of the buffs presented, you can skip them and hope for something more to your liking the next time you have a choice. After completing the initial dungeon, you zone over to fight a random boss. The order is dungeon, mini-boss, dungeon, mini-boss, dungeon, world boss. On trial by fire in the gauntlet, you will be greeted by annihilation at the end of your run. Good luck. So that sounds pretty insane to me. It does feel like it's going to be a very fun, repeatable mode. The very big question I think a lot of people will have is rewards, which I'll get to in a little bit. Defeating any boss will instantly grant you another power pylon choice. Note, the choices are different for each player, and they are completely random. So if you're going in with a crew, you might not get the same power pylon buffs as your teammates. If a player dies, it will be revived when the boss for that section is killed. That means if you die in the horde mode section, your teammates will need to defeat the boss to bring you back. That's kind of crazy. No world stone to refresh your relic charge in your ammo. However, you can obtain an extra relic charge from regular loot chests and post-boss chests as well. They will also contain ammo, consumables, and crafting materials. So when you're doing harder mode versions of the boss rush, you're really going to have a plan in place for healing. So builds with lifesteal might be really, really nice. Builds that don't rely on using your relics or where you can recharge your relics through various means will be very important. I think that's a way to really make these builds not just pure boss melters, but you also have to have a bit of strategy when it comes to doing the boss rush mode. Here we go about the rewards. Earn Luminite, Corrupted Luminite, Simulacrum, Iron Scrap, and of course XP, which you absolutely need for a new Prism system. That's good, and hopefully the buffs to the Prism system are, as far as the XP you get, are exaggerated within the boss rush mode, so it doesn't feel like you have to run this 1,000 times in order to level up a Prism. For every world boss you defeat, you'll be rewarded post completion, win or fail, with a corrupted shard needed for some of the cool stuff Dwell sells. This should be more much more efficient than trying to grind them out in campaign or adventure mode. This is something a lot of people were asking for. I had in my comments a lot of people requesting an additional corrupted shard event, and having this as an option instead, I think, is a good idea. Additionally, for every world boss you defeat, you'll be rewarded with any missing corpse drop or class items, or for one per world boss defeat. The game looks to see what you don't have and gives it to you. Okay, that's fantastic. So what this means, if you're missing Zero Divide and you've run Neru dozens of times without luck, you'll certainly get it from the boss rush if you can manage to tackle enough bosses. These will also be rewarded upon completion, win or fail. I like that a lot. Any boss chest has a chance to permanently reward you with any missing mutators you might need. Again, fantastic. Oh, and you can also get boss drops. On higher tiered runs, Trial by Fire or the Gauntlet, you can earn boss mods and boss weapons. Anything not specifically tied to a quest you can obtain. This means that you can start a brand new character, go into boss rush, fight Phelan or Phelan. I don't it says it twice, but and obtain the material for Deceit or God Splitter. So I think that's great, especially when you are now going to be able to level up your corrupted weapons even more, or at least change your regular weapons into corrupted weapons. You can jump into this mode and now get the regular version of a various weapon a lot easier than you might otherwise be able to. So I think that's nice, so you don't have to jump back into the campaign if you don't want to and you've already done it several times. Upon completion or failure, you will be presented with an endgame set of screens that will show you your performance. Each player will get a banner that represents their best contribution to the team, highest damage, most revives, etc. It also shows basic things like time and all individual stats. I think that's fantastic, and will encourage people to really chase like your best times, your highest kills, all that kind of good stuff. There's a breakdown of your total XP gain, boosted by a number of bosses defeated and the difficulty. Additionally, you'll be able to unlock unique prisms, which are the key to our Paragon / badass system, in quotes. You can also unlock some prisms outside of Boss Rush, as it is not exclusive. In fact, Dwell sells one of them, so you can get one pretty quickly. However, you'll need to play Boss Rush to obtain them all, which I think is a fair trade-off. You want to encourage people to jump into Boss Rush. Remember, since you can actually play Boss Rush the moment you make a new character, assuming you've done the tutorial once, you can start grinding for rewards without even playing the campaign. You can obtain some prisms and start working on your badass points before you even defeat the final boss. This should help players who might be struggling with the base game or any of the bosses, especially on harder difficulties. Remnant 2's Boss Rush lets you start off your journey or complete your gear collection while also feeding directly into our brand new Prism system. So yeah. So Triple Threat is easiest, Trial by Fire, and then the Gauntlet, which sounds absolutely insane. I'm probably going to do these in order, but I want to jump into the next part where he talks about Prisms. Were you expecting a full overhaul of the Fragment UI decoupled from relics? How about the weaker ones being removed and replaced with better choices and more total? I spy Prisms. This is just the beginning. Full write-up on the official Remnant game blog before launch. So this is going to be how the Prism system looks. Again, these are the fragments, and they look very, very different from what we have in the game so far. There are far more than meets the eye with Prisms, and all of us will be unveiled with the official blog before launch. Let's just say the grind is back. Oh, and like anything in Remnant, there are secrets within the system as well. We just can't help ourselves. Obviously, this makes a lot of sense. They always have secrets in everything they do, which is part of the reason why I love Remnant 2 so much. There's always something to chase down. And then finally, he says, since some people asked, let me clarify, Prism system is not exclusive to Boss Rush. It can be enjoyed by players on any level as soon as they obtain a Prism. However, to get all 7, you will need to play Boss Rush. You only need 1 for max power potential. So I'm very curious how this is going to play out. You can see here, it's got on the fragments rage damage as well as critical damage, and then damage reduction as well. Let's zoom in on that a little bit. So that's the fragments, and then we've got prisms as well. So it's on top of instead of replacing. So I do feel like that is going to lead to some very powerful build potential characters, and I do like that. And plus you see here, you got fragments here, and then you've got archetype, character traits, inventory. So pretty much a bit of a change from what we've seen before, but I'm very curious how this is going to play out, because I do think it's going to change the way we do a bit of build crafting in Remnant 2, which I think is good, especially this long into the game. We know that we're getting Remnant 3, we're getting boss rush mode. We don't know if there's anything else happening in addition to that as well, but that's something that remains to be seen. I, for one, am very excited. I can't wait to see how this all plays out. I feel like we are going to be fully back with Remnant 2 on September 24th, and I'd love to hear from you guys. What are you most excited about with the boss rush mode in particular? Let me know in the comments down below. Like the video, comment, subscribe, as always, all that kind of good stuff. My name is JoPa. Have a good one. I'll catch you all later.